Hey, what's up, everybody? My name's Zach. I'm one of the members on UCLA Housing's media team, and today will be the first live stream Q&A where we'll be answering some of your questions about, what it's like to be a student here at UCLA for all the incoming freshmen. And any questions that you guys have, just drop them in the chat and I'll start them off. So, welcome to the live stream. Again, my name's Zach. I'm a third year business economics major, and I'm planning on minoring in entrepreneurship. So I grew up in Los Angeles, specifically the San Fernando Valley. So, when I talk about going to UCLA, I grew up in LA my entire life. So, it wasn't too much of an environment change, but it is actually a lot more different than you'd think. I actually had never been to Westwood before I was admitted into UCLA. It was maybe like something I had never even seen before. Like, I did go to UCLA one time, my parents brought me there, but I was so young I don't really remember, and I didn't really even fathom, I could go here. But it's really different, so people who are in LA and are thinking of going, just know it is really different. And your life at UCLA will not be like your life at home, and it's really cool. So a little more about me. I've lived in Hedrick Hall, which is a classic. Then I've lived in Sproul Hall, which is a deluxe. These are the different types of housings. And then I've lived in university apartments. I'm living in them now until, I went back home because of all the stuff happening. And so a few extracurriculars about me. I'm a part of UCLA Housing's media team. I'm also a part of radio, UCLA Radio. I have my own radio show. I also do Cub tours with UCLA. That's a great club. So in Cub tours, I give tours to little kids that come, kindergarten through 8th grade, and just tell them all about UCLA. It's really fun. So, I guess I'm a little used to talking about UCLA, so, this shouldn't be too hard. And then I've also had experience working in UCLA athletics. I was a blue and gold ambassador, so we helped out in recruitment there. And then we also gave tours to prospective student athletes. And then in the past 2 summers, I had a finance internship at a healthcare technology company. So that's all this basic stuff about me. And if any of you have any questions, just drop them in the chat below and I'll answer it. This is a Q&A, so whatever questions you guys have, I'm here to answer. We put out a question sticker beforehand, so I'll go over some of that stuff before. But if you have any questions, I'll answer them right now. So here's one. Are jobs fairly easy to get, and are they sufficient enough to pay rent? So campus jobs, UCLA does a great job of having students have access to different jobs on campus through work study or just working. There's also jobs all in LA. There are many different coffee shops and all that you can use to get a job, but also different campus jobs and jobs on the Hill. So yes, they are fairly easy to get because they're designed for students. Like, we have one place at UCLA, it's called Kirchhoff Hall. And in Kirchhoff Hall, there's a coffee house, and they only employ students. So UCLA does do a good job of trying to give students who want or need a job. Let me see if we have any other questions. What's one thing you wish you knew about the biz econ major before you came to UCLA? Okay, that's a good question. So one thing I wish I knew is that it's not the traditional business major that you think of when you are applying as a business major. UCLA technically does not have a business major. It's not like UC Berkeley's Haas business program. Business economics is more like a branch off from economics, where you will now study business too. So you still learn about econ, both in theory and practice. It is a lot in theory, in my opinion, and that's why I like the biz econ major, because it balances out the theory you learn in econ with the real life stuff you learn in the business classes, which are called management classes. So that's one thing I wish I knew. And I also wish I knew that you have to apply into it, but you learned that right off the gate. But that might have been one thing that I wish I knew. So another question I got is like, does everything ever get too crowded? Dining halls, the study, libraries, lounges, etc. And that really depends. For the most part, no. I've always been able to find space when I've needed it, but for the study, if I got like peak hours, it's finals week, no one wants to go to a dining hall because they just want to get their food and study, it does get really crowded. And you do have to wait longer than what I like to wait. I don't like waiting in lines that much, but you still get your food and you can sit down while you're waiting. Libraries, always been able to find a seat, and UCLA has over 10 different libraries, so if one's crowded, just take a short walk and find another. For lounges on the floor, no, it's always usually pretty good. Another question I got was, what made you pick the business economics major? I wanted to do that because I realized with the business economics major, and I can take any class I want, outside of the biz econ major, that I can really choose to work in any industry that is really interesting to me, because every company is a business. This is my philosophy. And if you prepare yourself to have the skills and assets needed to help run that business, then you're a viable candidate for that job. That's why I did it. Personally, I want to work in the healthcare industry. I actually applied to all the colleges as a bio major, I came into UCLA as a physiological sciences major, and then I switched to an econ major right out the gate because I knew, I don't want to go to med school. I don't want to take all those classes. I wanted to learn about how to the aspects of a business. So that's why I chose it. So I got a question. Is picking what kind of housing first come, first serve? So no, it technically isn't. The way housing works is you have your housing application and you'll have your preferences. I think you list 10 different preferences based on the housing we have. And then a random generated number is assigned to each student, and then you're assigned the first available one of your top 10 choices. So now let me go to the next question. Is it easy to get research opportunities? I actually do not know. I haven't done many research opportunities, but I've had friends who have departments where it's really common and that it is easy. They make it seem easy because it's there, but I can't really speak much on that. Do you think community college is a good idea so you can go to UCLA even though other schools accepted? So, how I mentioned I'm a part of Cove Tours. We actually talk about this a lot, that community college is actually a really viable option, and because it saves a lot of money, and you could also find out what you want to do in those 2 years. So yes, it can be a good idea depending on your situation, and you just need to find that more for yourself. Next question, how do learning communities work? After you apply through housing, what goes into the selection process? So my freshman year, I actually did live on a living learning community in Hedrick Hall. It was the humanities one. And so living learning communities, in my experience, work in that they're basically a floor of like-minded people who all chose to be there, but also people who were just assigned there because, again, it is just a floor. And then on top of doing your regular floor stuff, like RAs put on different social events for people, informative events, living learning communities also get more funds to do other stuff. So we went to downtown Los Angeles, did a walking tour, went to Grand Central Market, basically to learn about the history of LA and the culture surrounding it. We also went to the Getty for an art trip. So there's a lot more funds to do these events in living learning communities, and also different events. So there's I'm going to mess up the name, but there's a civic duty learning community, and they actually do a really interesting event where they register people to vote and help out in that process. So I'm going to go on to the next question. How hard is it to get classes, and what classes would you recommend for freshman econ majors? So when you're a freshman for your first quarter, it is fairly, it's not too hard to get the classes, especially in the beginning, because when you're starting as a biz econ major, you got to take Econ 1, Econ 2, unless you take AP Econ. You also got to take the math classes unless you took AP Calc, BC, and passed out of them. So you actually do get a priority enrollment that time for freshmen to pick your classes during your orientation. So you usually will end up with the classes you want, and those econ and math classes are huge. So I really recommend taking one major related class and then 2 GEs, because you want to take the GEs to explore your other options. Don't lock yourself in one major. I thought I was just going to be an econ major, and then I changed to biz econ, but I came in as physiological sciences. So that's my recommendation. How hard is it to get into the GE classes? General education, Gen Ed, GE, all the same thing. So it really depends. If it's a really popular one, honestly, it could be pretty tough. I've had classes that my friends are taking and they got in, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to take it with you, and then I didn't get in. But that's okay, because there are other options. You plan for all that. But for your first quarter, you'll go with a new student advisor. They'll walk you through it, and it shouldn't be a difficult process, and you'll be able to get it. How hard is it to focus as there are hundreds of students? It's not hard to focus. It's the basic lecture style. So sometimes you're in a class with 400 other people, but the professor's just lecturing, and you got your notebook or your computer and you're just typing away. Not hard to focus, really. No, it doesn't really have a business major. I'm not sure if I still apply to UCLA. So I don't think UCLA not having a business major should make you not apply. UCLA, like biz econ, is a really cool major in my opinion, especially when you can take some entrepreneurship classes, because entrepreneurship, basically, and how we all think of it, it's starting your business or learning how all aspects of a business run, because you got to start a business. So you learn about many different types of how businesses run, from the finance end, from the marketing end, from the investment end, like negotiating, and then operating. So it's really, you learn a lot of interesting things, and you also learn a lot of interesting things about the people. Personally, for me, I did not go to a school just for their academics. I went for what the social environment is like. The people was the differentiating factor for me. How easy is it to switch majors? It's fairly easy within the College of Letters and Sciences. So there's around 7 different colleges at UCLA. There's theater, letters and sciences, arts and architecture, among other stuff. You can probably find that. And it's easy to switch within those colleges. So if I wanted to switch from maybe psychology to business economics, if I have enough time, it's okay. I just got to make sure to take the classes. When did you switch to econ major? I switched to the econ major my first year, because I knew I wanted to do it. But then I switched to business economics this year, because you have to actually apply into it. Are there a lot of transfer students? Is it hard being a transfer student? There are a lot of transfer students. There are actually a decent chunk of people at UCLA are transfer students. I want to say over 30% are transfer students. And that is the largest transfer student population by any UC school. So it's not hard being a transfer student. One of my best friends is actually a transfer student, and it's a great time. On the housing map, I can only list the room types, not the buildings. Do we not get a preference to which hall we live in? Yes, so you can only preference the room types, not the specific halls. So you won't know which hall you're living in until later, but you can choose your room types. How difficult is it to get a double or single for freshmen? So freshmen are usually only able to live in triples. And that's what it's going to be like for next year. Most freshmen, if not all, will live in triples. However, if you need a double or single for any accessibility reasons, you can actually file that and appeal the decision, and you can get the room you need. Okay, I'm going to switch to the question sticker to see what else we got. How does orientation work? So orientation works, you go to UCLA, I think 2 nights, 3 days, socialize, meet people, but also learn what it's like. You get to talk to different counselors. So I talked to a counselor, an economics counselor, and they told me, what it's like applying to business economics, recommending what classes to take, all that stuff. So it's really for you to kind of dip your feet in the waters of UCLA and kind of find out, you get to schedule your classes. That's one of the biggest things about orientation, but also you get to meet the people for the first time. So it's exciting, also a little nerve-wracking, but it's great. So another question, your favorite class you've taken at UCLA? Ooh, that's a really interesting one. So I've taken a lot of really interesting classes. One of the best classes I've taken was a real estate class. So the professor was great speaking style, and you just learn how real estate works. Like you always see apartments everywhere, and like you learn it and different buildings, and people always talk about property taxes, all that stuff. You just learn all about that. So it's really cool to just see how it like all works. Yeah. So let me go back to the questions you guys got here. How do you switch majors before the semester starts? So you can do that through orientation, and they'll walk you through it if you need. Did you take a freshman cluster or know anyone who did? Did they like it? So I did not take a freshman cluster. The way I view it is clusters are recommended a lot for people who have really packed majors. So what I mean by that is there's a lot of classes they need to take in that period. So that means there's a lot of pre-requirements that they have to take before they can get into the major, and then a lot after. And the cluster removes all the GEs they have to take, or a lot of them. It doesn't remove all. So I knew a lot of people who did because a lot of my friends were pre-med. My roommate took one, so I saw him go through all of it, and he did like it. You get to choose the cluster you want. I really recommend you read into it to know like which cluster topic is interesting, because you will be in it for the entire year. And the first 2 quarters, it's like a class, and then the third quarter, the last one of the year, basically, it turns into a writing seminar. So it gets your writing tier requirement out of the way, which is basically an intensive writing course, but nothing scary, don't know how to write. Relating to clusters, are there business econ related clusters? Are clusters for your majors or GEs? There are no biz econ clusters. I did not take it because the econ and biz econ major are fairly shorter than other majors. Econ, the counselors say you can usually get it done in 2 to 3 years. So you can graduate early. So that's why most people take a minor or double major. So there's not really a cluster for biz econ, and I wouldn't recommend it because you want to balance out your econ classes with GEs, so you're not just totally overwhelmed with all major related classes. How was the transition from high school classes to lectures with 300 people? It was honestly kind of like a little relieving because in high school classes, it's maybe 40 people, at least for my high school, it was 40 people. And, 40 people, raise your hand, the teacher call on you, but you do know everyone in the classroom. But it's kind of relieving going into a lecture because you're kind of just sitting there and taking notes. You don't really have to, if you don't like participation, you don't have to always worry about that or anything. But, it does take away from some of that, really nice in-person one-to-one connection you can have with the teacher, but that's why they have office hours. So for me, the transition was not tough at all, and you do get that one-on-one when you go into discussions with TAs. So let me see, what else you guys? Did we get to meet with counselors to help pick classes? So you mostly work with the new student advisors during orientation, but there are sessions to work with your counselors for your specific major department, and they'll tell you what they recommend. So for me, when I was talking to the econ counselor, they're recommending, take 3 GEs my first quarter. But then some other people were telling me, take 2 GEs and then take Econ 1. I went with 2 GEs and Econ 1, and that's what I would recommend to people. You don't need to take 3 GEs. It's good to get, your feet in the water. So what are university apartments? So university apartments are off-campus housing owned by UCLA. So basically it's an apartment owned by UCLA. It comes furnished, Wi-Fi, heating, ceiling fan, that type of stuff, and you get to live there. What has been your association of UCLA Anderson as biz econ major? So I haven't done that much with the Anderson School of Business outside of having my classes be in Anderson. So I have a lot of classes in Anderson, so I spend a lot of time there. And, that's basically it. Anderson's mostly a graduate school, so you can't really do much there, but some of your professors teach both at the undergrad and graduate level. How is it living in a triple? So I lived in a triple 2 years, or, technically every single year, because in the apartments I'm with 2 other people in a pretty big room. And it's not bad, If you like your roommates, you guys get along, you have the same schedule and everything, it's totally fine. I will say you have enough space to have your own stuff. You have your own desk, you have your own bed, have your own closet space. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And, I really like living in a triple my first year because you're just surrounded by people who are also wanting to be friends with people, We go into college and, at least for me, I was nervous. I was like, making friends and all that stuff. But, living in a triple in a class, in a classic hall, you're just with people all the time that also want to be friends. So it's great, in my opinion. What is the nicest housing building? Honestly, they're all really nice. They just change in amenities based on the types of rooms you want. So classics and deluxes have communal bathrooms. So, that means communal showers, communal bathrooms, sinks, all that stuff. So it's a lot more social. But then when you get to suites and plazas, it's either private or shared. What kind of rooming did you live in, and how did you like it? So I kind of talked about it. I lived in a classic, then a deluxe, then university apartments, and I loved all of them. They're great. I think living in a classic as a freshman, I loved it. I know a lot of people sometimes having their own bathroom, but I was okay without that, and it was great. Do you know how to apply for jobs on campus? So the jobs I found, it was actually through looking at their website or following their account. So for UCLA Housing, I found Media Team because I followed UCLA Housing. And when they're like, oh, we're hiring, I was like, sign me up. And, I applied. For Blue and Gold, which is also a campus job, I found that through the website. But there's also, through the internet, you can literally look up UCLA jobs. And there's a website run by, I think, ASUCLA or another UCLA affiliated thing. And it'll list it. Does the size of the dorm really affect your experience? No. In my opinion, no. You get all the necessities you want, and, it's really good. Are you a graduated student? No. So I'm a third year at UCLA. What is your fave dining hall? Okay, so big topic of debate. I'm going to talk about all the dining halls because I'm very passionate about this. So there's 4 different dining halls. There's Feast, which serves Asian food, Cove, Mediterranean food, Deneuve, which serves the food of the Americas, and then B Plate, Bruin Plate, which kind of serves a mix of all of them, but makes it healthy. So my favorite, I call it the old reliable Cove. It always has pasta, which I love, gyros. Love that too. I really like Mediterranean food. I also really love Feast because the Asian food, I'm half Korean, so sometimes they'll have Korean barbecue and it's great. But B Plate is one of the tastiest ones. So let me go back. So for all the econ majors here, here's a question. How should I organize first quarter classes? So this depends. It's going to depend on what classes you need to take. So if you've passed out of math, then I'll be talking about this scenario because I passed out of math. I didn't have to take the Math 31 series, which econ usually does require. So what I did was I took 2 GEs. Take any ones you want, whichever interests you, and then take Econ 1. That's what I recommend, Econ 1. And then one question I got from the sticker early on was, who's the best professor to take econ classes with during your freshman year? And that's Randall Rojas. I had him for Econ 1 and Econ 2, my fall and winter quarter of my freshman year. And he is the best professor I've had for econ. He's great at explaining things, and that's what I would recommend. For your first year, really, I balanced it 2 GEs, 1 major-related ones. But honestly, spring quarter, you're kind of already into it. You can take 2 majors, 1 GE, but just know for econ it's a short major and you can space it out. Next question, do you have any tips to balancing social life and academics? For me, it's really just like know when you have to do your work, and then when you don't have to do it, be social, have fun, That's what I really recommend, because it's good to have, a good mental health state while you're doing your work. You can't just be all working, because then college isn't fun. You're not getting the most out of it. But you can't all just be, playing, because, your grades do matter and you don't want to fail your classes and have a poor GPA. So my real tip in balancing is just, not make a schedule, but have a schedule of what assignments you need to do and when they're due by. And on days where you don't have to work, don't work. Don't sweat it too much. And you'll get in the hang of it of knowing what to do. When I first got there, I was like, really putting like all my effort into like studying and doing well and all that stuff, honestly, and it was too much effort. And I did not do more fun things. Even though I did a lot of fun things, I just realized I could take less time doing all that to balance it out. So you'll find the balance, and that's my advice. You'll find it, just trust me. How separate is North and South Campus? Not very separated. So North Campus has our humanities-based majors, and South Campus has our STEM majors, and they're pretty close together, and they connect in the middle. I am planning on going to grad school. So when we talk about dining, one question we got in the housing question for me was meal plans. So meal plans go from 11, 14, 19. And it can either be regular or premium. So regular has one swipe per meal period, whereas premium has multiple swipes per meal plan. So 14p is the most common meal plan for students. I had 19p, and it's only $100 more. So it's my most recommended bang for your buck, because if anyone ever comes to visit you, swipe them in. But all the plans are good. But I recommend, I really like the premium plan. So, that's what I would get. Are there usually events going on in the residence halls? Yes. So different floors have different RAs who all put on different events. So there's also building-wide events and also hill-wide events. So there's always events going on every week in the hill and in your residence halls. Okay, let me see if there are any other questions before I go to the questions you guys had earlier. So, is it recommended to sign up for an earlier orientation date? No, it doesn't really matter. If you're thinking about this in terms of, is it better to go earlier to get the classes you want, the way it works is they block off a chunk of spots in each class for each session. So if you go to the last session, you still have the same amount of open spots as the first session. So it doesn't really matter. It's whatever works best with your schedule. So before I go on to other stuff, do you know anything about SAA? What's it like? I think that's Student Alumni Association. So one of my really good friends is on SAA, and I can't really speak much about it, except he really likes it. The events you plan, like they do the Beat SC Bonfire, which is a great event. So I want to join it. It seems really cool, and I think it's great. So another question: did you come in with AP credits? So yes, I did. And those AP credits. Okay, so let me go back to this. One question someone had is like, what did you wish you knew before you came in? And this talks about AP credits. So not all AP credits will let you, skip classes. You still have to take classes. So let's say you took AP US History, AP European History, and you passed those. Took the test, got the credit. You still do have to take History GEs at UCLA. But certain AP credits do allow you to pass out of things. So, for instance, I took AP Calculus A, B, and BC. And because of that, the credits I got with that for taking the test, I was able to pass out of the Math 31 series for Econ students. Do you have to get a meal plan? No, but if you live on the hill, it's highly recommended. Let me see if there's anything else. Okay, no, so let's go, unless you guys have other questions. How does registration for classes work? Does having more completed units give priority in registration? Okay, yes. So the first registration you have for classes, I kind of talked about, it's with an NSA, and they block off segments so you can do it, and you're all on the same schedule. However, after AP credits do give you extra units, and depending on how many units you have, we'll say either if you're freshman standing, sophomore standing, junior standing, or senior standing. So when I came in, I had AP credits and I was sophomore standing. But to be honest, a lot of freshmen, or most, are just sophomore standing because, it's a competitive school to get into, Everyone does stuff like takes AP, get these extra credits. So most people are sophomore standing, but the amount of completed units you have does give you, earlier slot in enrollment, but, it's only so marginal. I went to middle college, high school on a college campus, but my college courses still count for a major. So it depends based on your counselor. You got to talk to them about that. How do you know you want to study biz econ? So I kind of talked about that earlier. I wanted to do biz econ because I kind of wanted to learn about business. Because when you learn about business, it gives you the skills and assets needed to... lost my train of thought. It gives you the skills and assets needed to honestly work at any company, because every company is a business. So if you come in knowing, how to best operate it, how to enhance it, and different other skills, it's fantastic. However, everyone has their specialization. I really like the healthcare field. So I took a lot of public health classes and bio classes, life science classes. Do you know people who became RAs? How did they like it? Yes, so I do know people who became RAs. My girlfriend is actually an RA, and she loves it. She loves her residents. She has a great relationship with them, and it's fun for her to plan events with them and talk with them and all that stuff. So she loves it. One of my really good friends, my roommate next year, was also an RA, and he really liked it too. So being an RA, it's a cool thing. Much respect. You do a lot for the floor. And I had a great time because I had great RAs. Okay, so I'm going to go to some of the questions people had asked before and then tell you guys. So one question I got is biz econ heavy in math? So it's kind of like a yes and no. So the way it works is you do have to take those math classes if you didn't pass out, and that is obviously very math heavy. But then I would say, honestly, still yes and no. The highest math I've had to do is differentiating stuff. Like, that's it. So for me, that was Calc AB. So that's the highest it went, but only in that one regard. So I wouldn't say it's super math heavy, but some classes really are. But once you finish those classes, it's not. But a lot of the pre-required classes you have to take are related to math because it's economics theory, and that has to deal with math. So I would say, yes and no. It's not super heavy where, that's every class is talking about math, because that's not true. It's just, the lower divisions where, you're trying to learn the fundamentals. And then after, you can learn on the history of economics, or like, I'm taking an e-commerce and the technology economy. So all that stuff. So it's really, yes and no. Okay, so I see more questions. I'm going to answer those. Are there any hoops you have to jump through if you work night shifts at your job as a freshman living on campus? So I can't really speak from that on experience, but I do know there are people who are employed on the Hill who work. There's kind of like security at dorms where you have to swipe in after 9 p.m., just for the safety of everybody. And students work those jobs. So, they're working really late night shifts and stuff, and they make it work, but I can't really speak much on the experience. Do you get to choose your roommates? So yes, you do get to choose your roommates. You can choose them however you find them. And once you make your application, each of you have a code, and then there's going to be a section where you can request to have a roommate. And both of you enter the code for each other, and if there's a mutual thing, you'll automatically be paired. What score do you need to get on AP test to get credit? I think a 3 to a 5, maybe a 4 to a 5. So what type of math do you have to take for finance? So again, I haven't had to take a single math class at UCLA outside of the math and econ. So for finance, there's econometrics, and that was mostly math relating to differentiating. That's all it is, because you just want to find the rate and just knowing how to work some certain stuff. So that's really all the math it is. But for accounting, there is other math, accounting math. But it's not crazy, and to basically sum up all the math questions, the professors will teach you the math you need to know. And if you need more help, they have office hours, and then the TAs will also teach you. So you will be prepared to do it. So next question, is BizEcon a really competitive major to apply to? Yes. So I'm not saying yes, but let me talk about it first. So yes, BizEcon you have to apply to. So I was pre-BizEcon up until this year. I had to apply into it after taking classes, getting a certain GPA, meeting that threshold, and then you can get into it. So, it's not necessarily competitive where you have to submit an essay and they only take in a few number of people. No, it's anyone who makes the requirements will get in. Where while those requirements may be easy for some people, it could be hard for others. That really just depends on you. But it's just basically getting a good grade in the class you have to take beforehand and then applying into it. And it usually takes 1 to 2 years to, get into it. And I really think it's based on different classes you take, and it's a composite score that averages different things. You'll learn about it more from the counselors, but I wouldn't say it's competitive. It's amongst students, it's really just competitive in that, you have to get good grades in these classes. Since it's triples, there are spots of both names on the housing app. Yeah, so when you choose your roommates, you'll do that. You'll request each other. If I want to double major, how much help will I get from academic counselors in planning that out? You'll get a decent amount of help. I've had to plan classes with academic counselors, and they're really helpful. But also, talking to students who've done it is a really nice tool to have. And you can ask whoever you know as well. But the academic counselors will help you out by giving you a sheet and a lot of stuff. So if I'm in a suite in Saxon and want to switch to a different suite, but somebody random is in the spot, can I still switch to B with the people I want? I'm actually not sure. You should email us let me find our email real quick. You should email us at uclahousing@housing.ucla.edu, because I'm not sure about the specifics of that, but we can get your question answered if you need. Can you skip your math class if you only take Calc AB, or do you also have to take BC? So I think if you take AB, you may be able to pass it out of 1, but if you take BC and, obviously getting a score that UCLA deems passable, I think it was either a 4 or 5, then you can pass out of both. What potential career plan do you plan to have? So I really like the biotech industry, and I obviously want to go into the business side of that, kind of like business operations, HR, that stuff, because I really like working with people. So that's my plan. I also really like marketing and all that stuff. So, I wouldn't say I really have a plan yet, but I just know what I like to do within a business. But the industry, those two, broad. That's really why I chose BizEcon too, because all those industries are open to you, as long as, you're open to them. Can I take classes that aren't related to my major, but are just for personal interest? Yes, yes, yes. And I really recommend doing that. It's really cool. I love it. It's so great. I took 2 to 3 different architecture classes. It's just so cool. When would our orientation going to be this year? So probably during the summer. And that's that. I can't speak much on anything else. I'm not a part of the new student orientation. But it'll be during the summer. Can you talk about the honors program? So I can't say much on the honors program. I know a few people are in it, and you can take certain honors classes and have access to different counselors too, but that's really all I can speak about it. Do UCLA housing team members get a little more priority on choosing dorms room style? So all people that work with housing do get, I think, priority enrollment. So that could be any residential life or any housing job you work with, I think you get it. So we do, yes. Do freshmen offer suites, and are suites policies also social dorms? So the way we're doing it, housing, is putting all freshmen in triples, and I think most of you will go to plazas. And because plazas will now have mostly freshmen, they will be social dorms. Classics are considered the most social because they have the most freshmen. But now, since we're changing that, because we're building more buildings that are plazas, it'll have freshmen. So those will become social because it's not really the buildings that are social, it's the people that are in them. And so the classics are, have the reputation of being the most social because they have the most freshmen. But now, since the plazas will have a lot of freshmen because of our new plan, it'll be just as social. Do I know what class I'll be taking as a freshman? Yes, because you'll plan it during the summer. You can't really look at it now, but trust me, when you're at orientation and your new student advisor is talking you through it, it's more than enough time. I got in as a pre-math major, but right now I'm really interested in biz econ. Can I switch majors? Yes, you can. When you go to new student orientation, tell your advisor, or when it happens, tell your advisor, hey, I want to do this. They'll switch you to pre-biz econ. When do I choose my meal plan? I think you'll choose it when you submit your housing application, but just know you can change it, and it's fine. I still recommend 14P. Is this move to Plaza going to happen for the 2021 school year? Is that now? No, that's next year. I'm sorry. Yes, we're currently trying to build the new dorms for fall 2021. So hope we'll be trying to have them for you all when you get there. Let me see if there are any other new questions. Okay, sweet. So I'll be going to some of the pre-asked questions that you guys had for me. So, how is the business program set up at UCLA? What type of classes, projects, what do you do? So basically, the business economics major at UCLA is not the traditional business major that you would think of. It's not a business major. It's a business economics major. So it's related to economics, but now it implements different business classes. So you take two different types of classes. You take econ classes and you take management classes. The econ classes are the econ classes. Both biz econ and econ students take that. And then you have the management classes. So those management classes consist of accounting, real estate, entrepreneurship, marketing, negotiation, all different types of things that involve a business. So that's really how it's set up. You do work both individually and in group projects. A lot of group projects once you get into the higher management stuff because that's how business works and they want to give you that experience. And let me see if there's anything else that I can. And what do we do? It's basically like you can also join different clubs. For the entrepreneurship program, there's also a capstone where you will work as an intern at a startup company. Yes, so can I get a suite as a freshman? You can preference it, but I think most freshmen are going to be in plus or other stuff, or triples, but preference it, there's a chance. If I ranked a classic first in my housing app, will I get a plaza if you say much next year? No, it's all really going to be the random number generator based on your preference. We're just building more, so there's more opportunities to be there. I'm a pre-poli-sci and I'm interested in pre-biz econ. How late would it be to switch and would I be behind? So double majoring can be hard. If you're gonna double major, Oh, no, sorry. You said you're going to switch. So within your first year, honestly, maybe even beginning your second year, you have time, but you'll probably know before your second year, maybe even after your first 2 quarters, and the classes will overlap. I don't think the classes actually have a one-to-one overlap, but you can do it. My RA was a poli-sci econ double major, and he really liked it. What's the difference between biz econ major and the standard economics major? So I was kind of talking about that earlier. You take business classes on top of the econ classes. So it's kind of like econ plus, in my opinion, because you get those different business classes, accounting, finance, investment, real estate, negotiation, marketing, all that stuff. What about double majoring? So you can double major, and poli-sci and econ are both relatively shorter majors, so a lot of people will double major in that. So it's a very viable option, but I would recommend maybe a cluster because you'll have a lot of classes to take. But I can't speak much on the poli-sci major, but I think it's okay to do it without taking a cluster, but it's a very viable option for a double major. Would I recommend double majoring for biz econ since it's a shorter major? So I would recommend more so double majoring with econ. Biz econ has more requirements and more classes you need to take. And you could also minor in something. And then you get the 4 years, but you really can choose your own course. Would you say psychology is a shorter major? I can't speak much on it, but I know it's the second most popular major at UCLA. And I don't think it's a really, really long major, but I think around average, I just know econ is supposed to be a shorter major, and I can attest to that. What is a cluster? So a cluster basically is a class you enroll in for the entire year, your freshman. And you're going to be with the same people that entire year, same professors. And it's designed so you can knock out a bunch of GEs that you have. So, So if you take a cluster, you'll knock out a bunch of GEs in different areas like history or social sciences, life science, depending on which cluster you take. Think about double majoring in BZ, econ, and urban design. Since they're different colleges, would it be harder? So I think, I don't think it would necessarily be harder since they're different colleges because you would still have to take those classes. I actually really think that's a really interesting double major. So I say go for it. Econ and environmental science, I'm worried because there's barely any overlap. So the thing is, when you double major, there's not necessarily going to be a lot of overlap in your prereq requirements. Like econ and poli-sci, the econ pre-requirements are all econ classes. Poli-sci pre-requirements are all poli-sci. So it's really about balancing those things. So that's basically it. So don't worry too much about the overlap. So Stevie Serms asked, know anything about being an RA? I don't, but my girlfriend's an RA. Do you guys go into the city a lot, or is there too much work to do? No, so I actually go into the city a lot. Me and my friends, we usually go, honestly, maybe every other week, maybe every week into downtown LA to try new, really fun restaurants, like going to Grand Central Market. We eat a lot of Korean barbecue. So, there isn't too much work to do, but if it's finals week, you will have to study, but you'll find the balance. But if you want to go to the beach, you want to go to Santa Monica, you want to go to downtown LA, you want to take a trip up to Santa Barbara, you can, you have time. How do you sign up for clusters? You'll do that the same way you sign up for classes. What are the advantages of taking a cluster? Knocking out all the GEs you have to take, and would I recommend it? Depends on your major. For econ, since it's shorter, I wouldn't recommend it because you want to balance out your econ classes with GEs. But if you have a really packed major, like a lot of pre-med ones are, I do recommend taking a cluster. Is it pretty easy to get in a cluster class, or do they fill up quickly? Can't really speak much on that because I didn't sign up for it, but I have never ran into someone who said, oh, I couldn't get into a cluster. How many students total is a biz econ major, and would it be possible to double major and add a minor on top of that? So I can't really tell you how many units the biz econ major is, but it is designed to be 3-4 year major. And I've added a minor to it, and I think it's a perfect balance. The minors do overlap, like entrepreneurship, does overlap with biz econ, but even if it didn't, it's still possible. Would you, I was thinking of minoring in digital humanities. There's no overlap there, but it would have been possible. Would you recommend taking custody for a poli-sci major? So it's also a shorter major. So really, I would talk to another poli-sci major who can give you more details about that. And that's it. So how is the Greek life? So, the Greek life, I am a part of a frat. It's there. It's a lot of fun. It's a really tight-knit community in itself, and there's great people in it. I can't really give a number on the different frats there, but I want to say at least 10 different frats. So it's fun. You get to do a lot of new things, tight-knit community with a bunch of new friends you'll make, and great people. How hard is it to apply for minors in schools such as the film minor and other schools? So I don't really know, but I think it's still application-based. I would start asking new student advisors because they are coming from all different majors and have a whole network to talk about. Greek life for guys. I heard guys who aren't in sororities can't get into the frat parties. Ha ha ha. I honestly don't really know Greek life. Okay, honestly, kind of confused by the question, but the only social life is not just our Greek life. There are a lot of clubs, so parties and such. Yeah. Thoughts on where to live on the hill. I've heard some good things about Dykstra among others. Where would you recommend? So I really liked Hedrick. It's by the study. Dykstra is closest to campus in terms of how the hill is laid out. It's at the bottom of the hill. Hedrick's at the top, so you really build your calves. But I rep Hedrick. What do you mean by a short major? So what I mean by a short major is there aren't as many pre-required lower divs and upper divs for you to take. So if you're really efficient, you could finish the major in 3 years. But if you like to space things out, take classes you're interested in, add a minor, 4 years. So what I mean by a short major is there just aren't, as many classes. So a pre-med class has different series, like 3 different classes just for physics. But for econ, you take 2 microeconomics classes, maybe 3, if you want the extras. So that's what I mean by short major. Short major just means how many years it'll take, usually. What is the minimum GPA for getting into UCLA for human biology major? I'm currently student. Can't really speak much on that. I'm not a human bio major, but I'm sure you could find it online. Do you recommend applying for the honors part of College of Letters and Science? Pros and cons. I'm not a part of it, but I don't think there are really any cons to doing it because you can only get stuff out of it, and I just know you can take extra classes and other stuff. Do I have to raise my hand when I have to use the bathroom during lectures? No, you don't. No, you don't. Everyone understands you're an adult there. If you gotta use the restroom and you gotta go, you gotta go. They're not gonna do that. And you can if it's a smaller class. I've had a class with 10 people, and I never have, but some people have. It's not that big of a deal. Are getting into student clubs and associations competitive? Some of them are, some of them aren't. I would say most of them aren't. But so there are a few clubs. So I'm a part of UCLA Radio, and it's not an association, but it's a really competitive club to get into because a lot of people apply to it and a lot of people want it, but they're really accommodating. So you can apply multiple times, and if you don't get in the first time, you can apply again. Don't get in the second time, third time, you can get in. If you are fit with radio. But some clubs don't even take applications, so it's really based on some. And some associations, you just pay a $5 deal and you're already in there. Are there a lot of internship opportunities with the biz econ major? So, yes, there are, because from what I found, in my own personal experience, people are always looking for either accounting, finance, business operations, all that different type of stuff, marketing. And you learn all those skills in biz econ. Within the college itself, there are different networking nights, different internship nights. So, the Student Accounting Society, actually puts on a Meet the Firms event where you'll meet people from the top 5 firms. That's KPMG, Deloitte, Price Waterhouse, EY, and you'll get to meet them to, recruit, schedule an internship. Advice for Russian. Don't really have advice, just do what you want to do. Check it out if you want. There's no hurt in checking it out. In my experience, it's fun, but it's not my entire college experience. Being in Greek life won't be a make or break thing, but it's cool. That's a cool thing. So if you think about it, just check it out. How is for someone that's transferring in? So when you transfer in, you've completed a lot of the prereqs, so you mostly just go into the upper dips. What's your favorite group project that you've done? So a group project I've done was we had to create a business from start to finish, just a business plan. We didn't actually have to start the business, get the money and everything. But that was really cool because, it's testing all the different things you can do. You learn about every aspect of the business and you got a plan for it. So it's really cool. It was also hard. What's UCLA Radio? So UCLA Radio is a club I'm part of, and we basically throw different concerts around UCLA, like invite people to come in. But we also, our biggest thing is we have a radio station. So students in radio can apply to have a show, and that show will actually be broadcasted online. So I have a radio show, and it's one of the coolest clubs I'm part of at UCLA. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask. What else? Will there be a few people living in dorms and skater party and getting locked out because we're coming back too early? No, you don't get locked. You don't get locked out. So in rigor between busy econ and econ. Yes and no. Yes, because to apply into BusyCon, you have to have a higher GPA than to be accepted into econ. No, because you're still taking the same classes, and the other classes are just different. But that's basically it. Do you know anything about club or intramural sports? Yes, so intramural sports, I've been a part of them. I also recently joined Brown Club Tennis. And, there are so many different clubs. I think there's over 1,300 different clubs at UCLA. So many you can apply to. Intramural sports are always open. You can form your own teams or join your own teams. Pin your radios to show. So my radio show is Halftime. UCLAradio.com. It'll air Saturdays at 6 p.m. They're recorded online because of the current circumstances. That's it. I've done the radio show for 2 years with my co-host. I'll drop her name. Co-host Lisa Stewart at Not Lisa Stewart. It's a great time. So I just want to talk about a few other things. My favorite event at UCLA was Spring Sing. It's an event we always throw in the spring, or UCLA Brew and Bash, which is a concert thrown by one of the committees at UCLA at the beginning of the year, and it's during a 0 week. Is there intramural soccer? Yes, there is. Do you know how easy it is to join band on campus as a non-music major? Can't really speak much on that. I'm sorry. And I just want to talk about a few things. I joined, because I only have 2 minutes left. I'm just going to summarize things. I joined UCLA because, it's the number 1 public school in the U.S. now. And it wasn't like that when I joined. It was number 2. It became number 1 when I was there. But I joined because it has the same academic rigor and prestige as other schools. And now more, especially so. But I joined it because of all the things outside of the classroom it offered. It offered so many different clubs. Los Angeles City connected to it, where you can explore and do so many unique things. And it was really the people. The people drove me there. Everyone there is super friendly, super nice, super interesting, and super optimistic too. It's a great vibe from the people there. And it's always been so much fun, everyone is open to trying new things and open to meeting new people. And then to answer some of the other really popular questions is UCLA does do a great job of providing other career opportunities and internship opportunities to networking nights, and other clubs there on campus will have firms come in. But also BusyCon, I really like doing it. I really like being a part of BusyCon because it allows me to learn about different aspects of the business world, but also, I can take classes, add different minors, do all that stuff to get a specialization in a field. what would you say to persuade someone towards choosing UCLA over Cal? I would say it's the people. It's the vibe. It's like the being in the city. Berkeley, it may have more reputation among your parents, but UCLA